All right, hello, welcome. My name is Shaina. I'm an astrologer and tarot reader, and today we are doing another pick a card healing session, tarot reading sort of thing. Today we are talking about career. I titled this, What is your next big move in your career? Something along those lines, but basically this is a career focused reading. I'm trying to really have it be connected to what you actually want to spend your life doing. You know, what you actually want your career to look like, if you even want one, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you noticed, but I did dress for this video. Yes, I'm in my suit because this is the career reading, so I figured I would dress up for it, be all professional. I've got the whole suit going on, and if you don't believe me, look, see? I've got the whole suit going on, okay? So there are 3 piles. Now, I'm actually going to use these 3 decks for all the piles. So for every pile, the main deck that we're using is the Shuffle Tarot. This is the Collection C. Basically, it takes the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and then it combines the images so it shuffles them. But it kind of creates new meanings and more deeper implications, basically, with the cards. I'm also going to be using the Demon Tarot and the Archetypes Oracle. I actually just recently posted a big tarot deck and book haul, so if you want to watch it, you can click right here in the cards. Before I move into picking the pile, let me get the advertising out of the way. So, I sell birth chart readings on my website, shainaemily.com. I sell tarot readings as well if you're interested in your own. And I also have a astrology TikTok at shaina.emily, which I've been posting at very frequently, almost every day over there. And then I also have a personal Instagram. Okay, so let's get into picking the piles. So I'm going to do this by using my astrology dice. So if one of them resonates with you, or you just feel like you need some of that energy in your life or whatever it may be, you can pick that pile. But also you can always, I always say this, you can also just use random number generator, put in the numbers 1 through 3 and just go boldly there. Pile 1's energy is going to be the moon. So if you resonate with the moon or you've been feeling very lunar-like recently, that would be pile 1. And then the second die is the sign die, and we have Sagittarius. So if you have been resonating in your career with the sign of Sagittarius, pick pile 2. And for the houses, pile 3, we have house 11. So if you've been very 11th house focused in your career, or you feel as though your career needs a little bit of 11th house action going on, then pick pile 3. So again, pile 1 is the moon, pile 2 is Sagittarius, and pile 3 is the 11th house. So let's go into pile 1. All right, hello, welcome, pile number 1. So you chose the die with the moon on it. I think that this pile has to do with aligning yourself with your career. Like what I said at the beginning of you really want to connect with that. What is it that I really want to spend my time doing? What do I need to actually make me feel happy and satisfied? I don't want a career that just pays the bills. Maybe even with the moon, it's I don't even care if my career pays the bills. Maybe you'll be maybe you have somebody else supporting you, or you just will go without for a while because you want to do what you feel as though you're destined to put in this world to do. You have a very I want to say heart-centered focus on your career, and the move you want to make, you want it to be really aligned with your higher, better, grander, greater self. You know what I'm trying to say. So we're gonna go with, I always also connect this stuff astrologically. If you can see my puppy moving around, she's just saying hi. Maybe also in your career, maybe you're becoming a mother, or maybe you just became a mom, and maybe your career is being a mom or a caretaker of some sort. But the moon is currently at, hi, oh, she wants to say hi. Hello, sweetie pie, I love you. I love you. Oh, I love her so much. So the moon right now is in Leo at 29 degrees at the 10th house. So it's about to go into Virgo, but I think it is interesting that it's still in the final degree of Leo. And it's actually making a yod with, let's see, it's in conjunct Neptune and in conjunct Pluto. And it is square Uranus. And it is conjunct, but it's conjunct Venus and conjunct Mercury. So this makes me feel like your career, you feel like you are not being properly respected, and you are being almost used a little bit, or you are giving too much and not receiving enough, or even maybe vice versa. Maybe you're receiving too much and not giving enough in your career. But because it's the moon, I would assume it has more to do with not receiving what you think you deserve in your career and it not being aligned with that. Also, with it square Uranus, that makes me feel like you are getting really antsy with your current job. You're really wanting to change careers or shift focus, or you just are feeling bored and almost like resentful because of how bored you're growing with it. And it might even be causing like mental health issues as well. You may be going almost like crazy, you know, for lack of a better term. And you're feeling like things are too stagnant or things are too crazy and you don't get some peace, like whatever it is, there's just the amount of chaos that you have in your life is not the amount that you want, you know, and it's not helping you emotionally at all either. However, with that tight conjunction with Venus and Mercury, it does make me feel like there is something that you obviously enjoy doing in your career and that you want to do. Maybe it's something artistic. Maybe you're wanting to put your artistic nature out there more and express it a little bit more. You're just feeling like you can't because of these other obligations, which is I'm assuming is that like in conjunction to Pluto and Neptune, and even maybe a little bit that square to Uranus. But it's making me feel like you are trying to go more with your heart and go more with what you want to do. There are just outside forces that are making you feel like you can't do that. Like maybe with even that in conjunction to Neptune, you feel like you have to be practical, or you feel like you're being irresponsible and you can't make the move that you want to make. And so you're stuck doing this job with like menial tasks that doesn't really connect with you. I put it on blue because I feel like that resonates with the moon. But I'm going to go back to that. Let me get some more messages. So immediately, because this was like the moon pile, I wanted to pick an incense from my Cosmic Intentions incense, which I love these. I especially just love this brand. I don't even give a shit. Maybe they're toxic. I don't really care. I love it. Maybe that has something to do with you. Like, you're like, I don't even care if this is not the right career move to make. I want to do it because I love it and it makes me happy. It's kind of like what you're feeling. Okay. They're kind of like getting little tarot cards. So we have Dream, and these already smell really good. This is Rose Geranium. Believe in the essence of your dreams. With a floral sweet aroma and a hint of citrus, the refreshing scent of rose geranium and its uplifting blend is intended to bring you warmth and a sense of calmness. So yeah, this is just saying like there's a lot, like maybe also with that conjunction to Venus and Mercury in Virgo. You're very gifted at what you do and you're very good at what you do. You're just not feeling like you're able to execute it or something along those lines. Or maybe you're really good at your job and you feel stupid to change jobs. And you're like, oh my God, nobody else would in their right mind change jobs when I'm doing so much success and I'm doing so well in the job or something along those lines. But you don't, I don't feel like you're doing well in the job. Like maybe you look like you're doing well in your job from the outside, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like it's hitting in the creative and sparky way that you want to. I think you also just want a job with a different sense of obligations and even power. I think you want a job with more power. So yeah, this is just saying, let me cleanse the space a little bit with this. Maybe that's also a little bit what you need, a reset. It feels very jumbled. Your energy feels very jumbled and very stressed out. And I do think it kind of needs a little bit of just some breathing room. I'll put that there. Hopefully that's not too distracting. Let me go into the archetype cards, and then I do want to assess just you. So like your body, I mean, because it does feel like you could use some just like energy work. So let's see here. What's the archetype that you play in your current career? And then I'm going to also ask, what is the archetype that you would like to play in your career? So this is the one that you are, Prince. Romantic charm and potential for power. Using power for self-aggrandizement. I don't even know what that word is. And what you would like to do is the child, the orphan. Interesting. Independence based on learning to go it alone, conquering fear of surviving. Shadow attribute, feelings of abandonment that stifle maturation, seeking inappropriate surrogate families. So maybe you're just like not wanting to work. That's the vibe that I get. Like maybe Your job right now, you feel like has a lot of demands, and like you're having to like really take care of everybody, and also like, oh, you know what, also you're having to make everybody happy, I think, is another big thing. Like maybe your job, you always have to have like a very cheery, like just like happy-go-lucky personality, and you know, and maybe it's like a salesy job, or maybe it's just a job where you have to make all your bosses happy or make everyone happy, or just it's retail and you're always having to greet everybody with a smile. But it feels like that is not really aligned with what you want to be doing. I think what you want to be doing is exploring and living in a very free, not connected life. I do think your job is actually treating you really well right now, which does make sense because there's a lot of 10th house stuff going on. And so it does seem like you are doing well in your job. It just doesn't seem like that's what you are enjoying doing and what you want to be doing. So let me show you these cards. We have Prince for what the role that you're taking in your job currently, and we have Child, Orphan for the job, for the role that you would like to be doing. You know what also this points to me as? Maybe you're working a job that handles with a lot of like wealthy people, and people that are very, like, what's the word? Just like really well off. And you want to be working with people that are a little bit more underprivileged. Maybe you want to be taking care of people that you feel like aren't getting taken care of, and you're feeling like your job isn't really supporting the people that you want to be supporting right now, potentially. And so you want to move things. Like my example, like a really easy example would be like if you're a lawyer. You really like your job, but you're tired. You secretly do want to take cases that are more pro bono. And right now you're doing, maybe working for a law firm. Like you'd be like working for a law firm that's like helping just a bunch of rich people that don't need help and getting people off scot-free, and you're doing really well in your job and you're very charming and people like you, but you really want to be helping those people that you feel like you connect more with, that need you a little bit more, but you maybe feel like that's not a realistic move, and maybe you feel like you would lose a lot of power and you would lose a lot of respect even if you did that. Maybe like job respect, you know, like your reputation you feel like would be ruined if you did do the work that you want to do. And maybe you're feeling like you are feeling like, I think that you're not helping people and you're not being creative in the way that you want to be. I think is a big thing as well. And if this is like you're a single mom, maybe you feel like you're putting too much, like, okay, it would make sense also if you're like a mother, with this moon energy, or like a parent, I should just say, just like in general, a parent. But we got the moon, so that's why I'm like saying mother. So it's like, even if you're a male, you would take on like the more mothering figure in the relationship with your kids. Like you want to help your kids out. Maybe you're feeling like your kids feel like they're orphaned because you're like at work all the time. And you feel like the people that you're helping out at work don't need it and they don't appreciate you, and that's kind of where that energy is coming in as well. Let me assess your chakras a little bit. I am going to stand up and go out of frame. It is what it is. So let's check your chakras. We're going to we'll start at the root chakra. I think I only want to check 3. I don't know what those 3 are, but for some reason I just want to check 3. This is kind of reaffirming that you do have stability in your career, because it seems like it's healthy and open. And you do have a lot of like steadiness, surefiredness, even like just like a safe place almost in your career. Or even at home, like your home is well supported, you're feeling well supported at home, you have like a good house, just stuff that's stable. Now let's go to your throat. Your throat seems a little bit closed. So in some way you feel like you're not speaking honestly, you feel like you're not speaking your truth, you feel like you're leaving a lot of things left unsaid, you feel like you have a lot of ideas but they're not getting manifested externally properly. Maybe you feel like You know, you have all these things that you want to do in your career and all these like new revolutionary ideas, but you have no place to put them and nobody to tell them about. Or maybe if you were to tell people, they might steal it and da 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 da. Or if you were to tell people, maybe you feel like they would just, ugh, you know, they would be very dismissive of you. Now let's go to your crown. Okay, it's open. So, basically what this tells me, I feel as though you came to this video not because you're confused as far as what you want to do next, but because you know what you want to do next. You're very connected with the next move that you're going to make, and subconsciously you do know what it is, but you are nervous about speaking it into the world and manifesting it and making it actually happen. There's some trepidation and caution going on there, and feelings of insecurity or feelings that you don't want to take the big move, or there's just something stopping you. And I think that what you wanted from this reading would be me to tell you, yes, go for it, or no, don't go for it. And you have to decide ultimately if you want to go for it or not. But I do feel as though I don't know what to call it other than higher self, or your honest self is what I feel like it is. Your true self. I feel like that's a better word for it, especially because we're talking about the moon. Your true self wants you to go for it, and not only wants you, but needs you to, and needs you to trust in it, and needs you to take this risk that you're nervous about because it'll change your life and really disrupt things. But your true self already knows that you're going to do this. Like, you've already actually decided, it's already been implemented. It's just about when you do it and how much longer can you actually put it off. Like, this can manifest as like health issues, even if you keep on putting off this move and doing something that you're not happy about. Okay, now we're going to take the Demon Tarot, and I chose this deck because I wanted to pick something of like something that's kind of like keeping you connected to the not moving, basically. Like, it's kind of like I want to like your Achilles heel basically energy right now, for lack of a better phrase. I think that's the best way to. Okay, this card is going to come out. So let's see. This is all Volak. I'm so sorry. I don't know, but this is what the card looks like. So let's see. President of hell with 30 legions at his command, he takes the form of a beautiful child with the wings of an angel, and he rides a two-headed dragon. So let's see what this deck has to say about Volak. Oh, it says right here, Volak. Beware of underestimating soft-spoken or mild-mannered individuals. Many capable individuals are easily looked over because they are quiet. Volak is a gentle and non-violent demon by all accounts, but he has the gift of communication with all serpents. His gift allows him to find any snake in the world, and he can speak to it, and it will answer his questions and follow his commands. And so, although Volak does not look very powerful, he has at his disposal a host of powerful and clever creatures, from the great dragon he uses as a steed to the tiny grass snakes that can seek the locations of hidden treasures. Okay, so that also resonates a lot with the moon. Maybe you have strong Cancer energy. You should look at what house is ruling, which of your houses is ruled by Cancer. You should look at, obviously, where your moon's at, duh. But it does seem like you have some strong Cancer energy, or I should just say maybe even Pisces energy, or even water energy in general, because they can all have those kind of inclinations of being more observant and having a very watchful eye, and kind of, it does make me feel like you are able to talk and schmooze and make connections, but you just do things in a lot of a quieter, more subtle way than most people do. And maybe you're kind of a little bit doubting yourself, or you feel as though everybody else around you is doubting you because they're like, oh, you really want to make this blah, blah, blah career move when you're so quiet and timid and you have so much trepidation in you. But little do they know that you actually been observing and you're more knowledgeable and you have much more like vivacity. That's not a word. Is that a word? I'm not sure. But maybe by this movement, you know what I'm talking about. Tenacity. That's a word. I think I combined vivacious and tenacity to make vivacity. But you do have tenaciousness and vitality. Was that the word I combined? Oh, well, whatever. I think all of them are true for you. Sorry. I do think that you possess a lot. I think that you're easily underestimated. And I do think that maybe, like, if what you want to do, like, is something along the lines of, like, helping and consoling people that are a little bit more broken or need some more therapy or something along those lines, that you would actually be the perfect person for that, because you have a very understanding nature while also being true. And you're also, I think, it's also giving me vibes of somebody that can relate to a lot of people, that feels just like very humanistic, very human, very relatable, very much like maybe you've been through the ringer with your life. And maybe that's why it's so weird that you're working with like rich people, well-off people, people that are doing really well, because that's actually really unrelatable to you. You would relate more to like the orphan type of person that felt neglected for whatever reason. And people kind of don't maybe see that in you, or they don't know all that your storied life has kind of brought you to this point because you're quieter, but you're probably quieter as a way to protect yourself and as a way, as almost like a defense mechanism from the life that you've lived. And so I do think that whatever this career change is, I think it's special to you, that only you could do it. And, you know, you don't have to have people. I think it's also saying, like, you don't need to tell everybody that you're doing this move or this transition or this shift. They might copy you. They might take your idea. They might talk you out of it. They might try to talk you out of it because they're intimidated, or, you know, whatever reason. You need to just kind of do it on your own, which is, I think, how you move about the world in general. And I think that's the best advice for you, honestly, is to just pick up and do it and make this change, and almost like not ask for anybody else's advice or guidance, which is so funny because you're asking for mine, and I'm trying to tell you, I guess I'm giving you guidance, so do what you will with it. But I do think that water energy or even moon energy is very reflective, and it does a lot of times need reassurance. So I think this was less me telling you, this reading is less about me telling you what to do and more about giving you reassurance, is kind of the vibe I'm getting. All right, so let me pick up one last little tarot card. 2. I should get 2 more. And there's somebody in your career life that's really stopping you, that's really halting progress. And let me try to tap in on that energy. I don't know why I feel like it's a boss, it's a partner, it's a child. I don't know. It's something in your life. Okay, so we got the 9 of Cups, but what's so interesting, that I really like this tarot, is this person is getting drunk using the cups. And normally the 9 of Cups is like all about contentment, and like that, it's that figure that's like sitting guarding all of his cups, you know. But with this one, okay, so this is the figure. So maybe there's somebody drinking away all your money. Maybe there's somebody with an alcohol problem. Maybe you have an alcohol problem. Maybe you have an addiction problem. Maybe there's somebody sucking in and taking all your money. Maybe you have a spending problem. Maybe also, well, this is about the person. So maybe it could also be like, maybe you feel like if you go towards this other job, you feel like you're neglecting that person, and they're just going to wind up falling to their whims, and their whims are bad for them. And so you feel like this feels like a heavy weight that they have on you. It could be an actual physical person, or it could just be like another person that's in you, if that makes sense, like that addictive side of you. And maybe even has to do with money. Like I said, maybe this is more like pro bono type work that you're wanting to go towards, or it would take a while for you to make up the resources. And maybe you have a little bit of an overindulging problem, and you're nervous that if you were to kind of go that route, like you would lose a lot of your finances and a lot of your security and a lot of your stability, and you kind of don't want to do that. Because of your addictions, even though you would have a good amount of money, I think actually, because it is the 9 of Cups, it wouldn't be as overflowing and as overwhelming almost as it has been. But I think it's actually not good for you. I think you need to kind of take a break and breathe. And if it is another person that's in your life, like a partner or a boss or a coworker or whatever, they have an addiction problem, and you're maybe supporting it, or you're allowing it to go on, or you're funding it, or there's just something going on there, obviously. And there's no reason for that. They're kind of spending your money in a very disrespectful way, is the vibe that I get. And you, I think because of the moon and conjunct Neptune are kind of enabling it. Maybe this person you're kind of being an enabler for. And if you were to change jobs, you wouldn't be as much of an enabler for them anymore. Okay, let's pick a card that would represent you moving into this career shift. The Ace of Swords. But instead of it being like upright, it's kind of just like resting its hand. So this makes me feel like you would almost give the gift of your speech, if that makes sense. Like you would give the gift of your ability to talk, reason, would logisticize things. You would be kind of gifting it to others instead of normally, the sword is being held by the hand and it's like, I have my ideas, I have my thoughts. But instead it's kind of like, maybe you're wanting to be a teacher of something. Maybe you're wanting to be a counselor of some sort. You would actually be giving your ability to use your words and your speech to others. And it would be very helpful and very thankful. And it'd be very new to you. And you'd feel very inspired and very aligned and very, just kind of like mentally stimulated doing that. And it actually seems very good for you. It's very new, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, but I think that you're kind of drowning in your past job and you're losing yourself to it. Whereas this new career change or shift or path or decision would make you feel new and renewed and invigorated and very optimistic even, which is something I don't know if you have anymore. You might be seeking that eternal high with this energy, and this energy feels a lot more content and at peace and very giving, while also you're giving yourself the gift of being like inspired, which is like so important and so, I want to say like immeasurable, and what's that word, like so irreplaceable. I can't think of the right word, but hopefully you know what I'm saying. So yes, let me do one last little check of your body. There's some excess thoughts in your head. I think you're also feeling very foggy. And that's why that Ace of Swords came out, because it'll kind of help you declutter your brain. I think also maybe you're filling it with toxins or negative thoughts, or maybe there's that person around you has a bunch of negative thoughts, and you just kind of need to find it at peace and focus it and like narrow it in. There's also something going on at your sacral chakra. I do think that this kind of is affecting your sex drive, actually, is kind of what I'm getting. And maybe that's like another thing. Like maybe you're addicted to sex, or you're having trouble finding actual connection with somebody else because the people that you're around you don't really connect with. Again, I think there's some weird wealth distribution going on. And I've been getting that. Oh, cleared up though. It's very easy to clear up. It's just about making the right move and aligning yourself with your actual, once again, that 9 of Cups with all those cups overflowing and all that kind of stuff. Let me pick a message to end this reading with. We got 2, so I guess I'll take them both. Why not? So, they say, for my little germ thing here, at 20 years of age, the will reigns. At 30, the wit. At 40, the judgment. I've gotten these before, I think. So if you've picked this a pile before where I've done a reading and these were the ones I drew, that's actually really interesting. All men should try to learn before they die what they are running from and to and why. So yes, those are your little final messages. I think also like getting older is a big theme. Like you feel like you're too old to shift your career and change your career up much. And that's kind of stopping you. So it's just kind of saying like you needed the age to be able to do what you want to do now. Before, when you were younger, you wouldn't have that maturity, especially mental maturity of like that Ace of Swords card that was like giving the sword and like placing it in their hand nicely and respectfully. You wouldn't have the ability to. I do feel like you're such like a counselor, helper, teacher, caretaker, especially like in the way of words. That's what like what I keep on getting the vibe of, or like lawyer would make sense too, something along those lines. I think you needed to age. I think that your job was good for when you were younger, but your career is not good for you now. And so it's not like you chose the wrong thing. It's not about right or wrong. It's more that that was right for you then, and this is right for you now. And kind of accepting that you're growing and changing and see it as like a beautiful thing and embrace that change and love that change, because you're doing something, or you want to do something that you never would have been able to when you were younger. And that's beautiful and lovely and should be celebrated. All right, pile one, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope that it resonated. I really wish you the best with this career shift. I hope that you take these words and run with it. And I hope that you kind of like find time to center yourself and connect with yourself a lot emotionally, especially, is another message that I'm getting, because you know the path that you want to take. I think you're very aware of it. It's just that you're letting a lot of things fog you and get in your way of really connecting with yourself and your true emotional wants and needs. But yes, thank you so much, pile one, for watching this reading and opening yourself up to it. Again, I sell full-length readings, tarot readings, as well on my website, shainaemily.com. I have a TikTok and a personal Instagram. All right, bye, pile one. Hello and welcome, pile two, to your reading. You picked the die with Sagittarius on it. So this instantly made me feel like you don't want to work, you want to travel, you want to enjoy yourself. Or if you do want to work, you don't want it to be so structured. You don't want it to be so, you know, clock in, clock out, boss is whipping my ass and telling me what to do. I feel like that's the opposite of what you want. You want to feel independent, strong, and solid, and confident in your job, and kind of make your own job, create your own career, very much go your own way kind of situation. Now, I do still have an incense burning from the previous pile, and it was titled like dream, like that was the little word on the incense. So I do actually think that this has to do with your pile as well, because I think you are wanting to dream big. You are dreaming big, I think, and I think you're wanting to do maybe a lot with your career. It kind of goes one of two ways for me with Sagittarius. You want to do a lot with your career, but simultaneously, you really want it to be fun and non-traditional. And I think you are romanticizing it a little bit too. Like, oh my gosh, I want to do this because it'll be less demanding. I can just do this really fast, and then I can do it remotely and do what I want when I want. Like, I feel like you could totally fall into those like kind of like schemes almost that people sell, where it's like, oh, get this job and then really quickly you'll have money and be successful and you barely had to work. But for pretty much everything, there is work involved. And maybe you're not really wanting to, you're tired, you're just not really wanting to do it, I feel like. But I feel like you're being very optimistic about your job and your career changes. And if you're not, then you should kind of approach your career with a little bit more optimism, because it's definitely relevant and prevalent, what's going on here. I have this Jupiter oil from Psychic Eye, which I'm so sad so many of them closed. But yes, I'm just going to anoint you with this, because I think that you either feel lucky or you have luck coming. And I just want to kind of emphasize that. Maybe you're finally getting a big break. Or maybe you're about to come up to the big break. Put that on me too, why not? Hell yeah. I tried to put this moon on yellow, but it looks more green. So it does make me feel like no matter what, it's like money's coming. That's kind of like the vibe I'm getting. Like your career shift is that you'll be making more money in a much more free way. I was feeling called to get quite a few messages from this little fairy booklet that I write in, as well as my little germ jar that I collect fortunes. I was getting the message to get 5, and I was like, oh my god, 5, but I guess I'm gonna just go with it because that's what was told. So we're gonna start out with 5. This one too. Yeah, one more fortune, and then 2 from here. So we have, you have a reputation for being straightforward and honest, very Sagittarius. We have people gravitate towards your winsome personality, very Sagittarius. Oh my god. And then the last one we have is, this is so Sagittarius. Affirm it, visualize it, believe it, and it will actualize itself. So yeah, it just seems like you're doing really well, and if you're not, it's about to come around the corner, and the big career move that you need to make is actually just believing in yourself and trusting in yourself and going with your gut, listening to your gut intuition, manifesting the things that you want to manifest, going with it. You know, trusting that people like you, trusting that the people that will gravitate towards you, and those are your people. Just kind of being more steady, strong, and like, hell yeah, like optimistic about it, you know? Like I will say that I started getting more success in being able to support myself more this past about month and a half or so with readings. Once I decided that I would be, like once I said every day, like I made up the number of readings that I wanted to get every week, and I wrote it down a bunch. I said it a bunch. I thought it all the time. Just whenever my brain was empty, that's like what I would think. Like, oh, I'm going to get these readings every week. I'm going to consistently have this amount of readings every week. I'm going to consistently do this every week, right? Just thinking that over and over and over again. And it really, I mean, it wasn't overnight, but it kind of felt a little bit overnight. Honestly, that it kind of started manifesting and it kind of hit like wham. And maybe that's like what's kind of going on and about to happen with you right now. And a lot of the reason why people will be attracted to you is because of the way that you go about your job, or the way that you go about your career, or the way that you go about life, and your attitude towards it, because it's unique and it's different and it's a lot bolder than most. And you have a personality that people think, oh, this person's going places. And even if you don't feel like that, just fake it till you make it is like so true. Like everybody's just faking it, you know? All right, let's pick 2 messages. No one cares about your life or the shit that happens to you. Oh my gosh, that's so cruel. No one cares about your life or the shit that happens to you. What is this in support of? You know and hold the answer already. So maybe you need to actually do the opposite of the first pile and have a little bit more of an impersonal approach towards your job and towards your career. Like, kind of maybe you're feeling like, oh my god, oh, you know what it is? Maybe you're like bringing a lot of self-consciousness to your job, and bringing a lot of self-consciousness in general, and it's kind of saying like there's literally no point in that. Nobody wants to, and it says straightforward and honest, so they want you to be straightforward and honest, but there's a bit of dwelling that you don't need. Like the last energy was very much moon-like and sitting in that and emotionally connecting with it and that kind of stuff. And I don't think you need that. I don't think you need to dwell anymore. I think you just need to move forward. No one really kind of gives a shit about this or that, or how you got here, or, oh, I'm nervous, or, oh, am I doing okay? Like, nobody really wants to hear that from you. They actually want to hear, like, this is what it is, this is what I'm getting, this is what I'm feeling, this is the move you should make, or how, I don't know, whatever your career has to do with, you know, like, just being more confident and taking a little bit more of an impersonal approach while still simultaneously being yourself, you know, and kind of like leaving your problems at home, and leaving the shit that's happened to you at home, not dwelling on that, moving past it, getting over it, not bringing that into your career, because it's time to move on, basically. Like, you have a lot coming to you. Let me pick an archetype card for you. So this is the energy poet at the back. This is the energy that you need to kind of take more in of, that's in you, but that you're not trusting is actually in you, but it is. Yeah, and then we got dream. I mentioned that at the beginning. Jupiter expansiveness. And Sagittarius, you know what also I think it's saying about like that, you know, nobody cares what happened to you, is like Sagittarius makes light of things. You know what I mean? They kind of joke about it, and it kind of becomes part of their like appeal, is like how honest they are about things, yet how almost like little it seems to get them down, and how much they're able to joke about it. And maybe that's kind of the attitude you need to bring more towards like your past traumas or your career and stuff in general, is a more lighthearted, kind of funny attitude about it, you know, that kind of thing. Storyteller. It's so Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are so good at stories, and they're always really able to like bump up their stories and like exaggerate them and like tell them in a very entertaining way. We also got poet, so maybe there's some music stuff, you know, artistic stuff going on. Maybe, you know, writing in a way that instead of like okay, let's go with the fact that like let's just say you're a singer-songwriter person. I'm not saying you are, but like it's just a good example with the energies that I've gotten. Like, you know, people don't want the music that you'd probably be the most successful in is not music that's going, oh, woe is me, I'm so sad, cry, cry, harp, harp, harp. No, people would want like, I think of like Sagittarius as like egotistical like rap music, or, you know, braggadocious music, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, let me tell you this crazy story because I get all the bitches and I'm the hottest person that you know and my ass is the fattest, right? Like, it's very like Sagittarius, like, you know, they don't want to, rappers are very honest and very blunt and like shocking. I'm not saying you need to rap, but you get what I'm trying to say here. And they're not like crying about their problems, but rather like wearing it as like a badge of honor and being honest about it, but they're not like dwelling in it, crying in it. They're like, I'm on to the bigger, better thing. Also, I do think that a lot of rap is very manifestation heavy, which is also why I think it's very Sagittarian, because a lot of times like rappers will rap about like having money, having a bunch of cars, having all this fucking awesome shit before they actually have it. And I do think it is a way of like them saying it a bunch and like people saying it back to them and people saying it about them, that it like makes it happen for them, and it is kind of like manifesting that for them, if that makes sense. So yeah, but whatever it is, I think that if you're like a singer-songwriter, I'm not saying you need to be a rap artist, I'm just saying, I mean, if you are, it would make sense, but I'm just more saying that having that more positive like manifestation approach to it, rather than being like, I'm brokenhearted, oh, you know, that was more of like what the first pile needs to like sit in that stuff and like give people advice for it and stuff. You are more of the person that people come to for fun, for escapism, because of your personality, because of your enjoyment, because of your positive attitude, or just like that vibe that you give off. So this says light attribute, ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols. Shadow attribute, making tales that harm others. So, I mean, it did come up in the light attribute way, I will say. But I think in the shadow attribute, for me, more, it's like, maybe you need to bring in a little bit more of that, like, hyper braggadocious quality, or where you're really kind of, like, over-exaggerating. When you're really over-exaggerating stuff that happened for, like, the fun Sagittariusness of it. Like, you know, I was talking about this yesterday. Somebody was like, blah, blah, blah says that they've got a bunch of friends that are, like, famous and, like, influencers. And I was like, they probably just DM'd them once and the person responded, and so now they're like, oh, they're my friend, right? Like, that's a very, like, Sagittarius way to exaggerate things that happened. Like, it really did happen. You did get a response from that influencer or that famous person, but they don't know who you are. They wouldn't call you their friend, but you could kind of lie around and say that. I think almost like that's, I know this sounds like terrible advice, but that's kind of the energy that you kind of need to take into your career in a funny way. It's just like kind of exaggerating things a little bit, going with it, and it'll actually happen and come to you. You know what I mean? It's like guys that rap about getting bitches that don't got no bitches, because they rap about getting bitches, everyone assumes that they got bitches, when in reality they don't, but now they actually do because they rapped about it so much, so now they got bitches. You know, maybe maybe it doesn't need to be that fucking shallow, but you know what I'm trying to say. So now I also am picking from the Demon Tarot, because this is like I'm calling this like your Achilles heel card. Like, what's your problem that's like really kind of stopping you from getting to this like Sagittarius manifestation of a job? I do actually think that you want a job, you just want it to be fun and enjoyable and more creative and more aligned with you. All right, we got 2 cards. We got one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. I absolutely love this card. Is it Payman or Pyman? I'm going to pronounce all of these demons incorrectly. Also, somebody was like, oh, Daemon. I was like, I'm not going to say that. And I like this card because I love camels. They're my favorite animal. You probably can't tell, but, yeah, you can't tell it's cut off. But up here is my camel shrine. And then we also got this one reversed. Flavaros. Probably am saying that wrong as well. But this one's reversed. This one's upright. So it's maybe giving me strength and weakness a little bit. So let's just check in with what they say. I think that I like this one so much I have it marked. See? I have a sticky note there because I like this one so much. I actually do know that this card is very much like a fortune-telling card, if I'm not mistaken. Also, it's very Sagittarius to get my favorite card. Luck, enjoyment, expression, all that kind of stuff. So this says, beware of unfavorable first impressions. Many intelligent and knowledgeable individuals are awkward or abrasive at first as a defense mechanism. So maybe you can kind of be taking in a little bit of that energy where you kind of aren't fully in your comfort in your Sagittarius energy, and you are making a little bit of in a negative way, a bad, abrasive Sagittarius kind of first impression, and you just need to adjust it a little bit so you can still be bold and strong, and, you know, unabashed, but a little bit less to where it makes the other person feel alienated or puts the other person down. And I do think a lot of that comes from insecurity and comes from being self-deprecating, and almost as like be a little bit less it's like less and more self-deprecating. Like, be self-deprecating in a humorous way, not in an isolation way. Like, you know when people do those self-deprecating jokes that you're like, this is just awkward, and like fishing for compliments and begging for attention. That, you know, I think you might be doing a little bit of that. So you're not like in your positive Sagittarius, like selling yourself energy. Because I do feel like you're a very independent career person who is less focused on a career that's being built up and up, and is more focused on just kind of like being the salesperson. Also, I forgot to mention it in the chart right now, Sagittarius is in the second house and part of fortune is there. So that makes me feel like the part of fortune is in the first house and Sagittarius is in the second. So it makes me feel like you earn your money, like there are big highs, big lows, and you kind of earn it by charm, by your personality, rather than like working up the career field. Sagittarius just like goes out and does the thing that they want to do. And, you know, it's hard sometimes, easy others. But I think you're being a little bit too self-deprecating in a way that makes it uncomfortable for people, and you need to be more self-deprecating in a funny, hee-hee, relatable way, and even be a little bit more positive about yourself as well. This also says, Payman's areas of expertise are many. That's very Sagittarius, being very well-rounded in what you know and can do. He is knowledgeable in the arts and sciences, philosophy, and events of the past, present, and future. When Payman is summoned, he is preceded by a line of trumpeters to announce his appearance, followed by a line of those under his command, then a clang of cymbals and other musical instruments, and finally he will appear riding his camel very slowly into view. Very dramatic, very Sagittarius. You know, I think it does have a lot to do with like first impressions, entrances. Like if you're making a video, what does your intro look like? If you have a TikTok, what does your TikTok page look like? If you're selling items, what does your online store look like? And it needs to be grand. It needs to be like unabashed. It needs to be forceful. It needs to like be poppy, right? It needs to be over dramatic, right? Sparkles and all that whatever shit. After that grand entrance, Payman is very arrogant and loud, and it may take some time for the summoner to attract his undivided attention to pose questions or requests. This is so Sagittarius. However, Payman is very knowledgeable, and it is perhaps understandable that he manifests in such an ostentatious manner out of missing the glory of his former heavenly incarnation. If you can bear with his admittedly long-winged and abrasive entrance, his gifts can be worth the time and effort. I think it's also just saying that there's some introductory stuff to get where you want to go. There's some stuff that you have to sort through to get where you want to go. I think it's a very positive message, but I do think it's saying like, it's just like hyper Sagittarius. I feel like all I'm getting throughout this entire reading is Sagittarius, Sagittarius, Sagittarius. Okay, Flavaros. Let's see if he like is an overindulger or something. I don't know. Let's see what they say. Focus on unlikely allies. People that we may distrust can be honest in certain situations. So this makes me feel like, because it's reversed, you are overly trusting of people. Like you're giving Sagittarius energy too much to the other and not enough to yourself. Flavros, I'm so sorry, Flavros is said to be a liar who, oh, this is so Sagittarius. Sorry to call Sagittarius liars just now, but who will beguile those who conjure him and try to coerce them under his command. He can, however, be bound within a magical triangle in which he will only tell the truth. However, that seems to be a test as far as Flavros is concerned. Once he is properly bound within the requisite triangle, he is very glad to be of help and more than willing to converse about heaven and hell and about the military campaigns during the great war in heaven that led to Satan and his followers being cast out. It is as if he lies to those he does not believe worthy or prepared for his presence, but when satisfied, he will give full assistance and attention to them. It gives me Sagittarius Capricorn, that card. So I think that you need to create, oh, you know what it might be? You're giving your attention, you're giving your information, you're giving your Sagittarius energy to those that haven't proved themselves, is kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Like, maybe you're also giving too much of the benefit of the doubt to other people. You're giving too much, almost being like too optimistic towards others and not being more sacred with the energy that you keep to yourself. And maybe that's really costing you a lot of success because you're giving out your knowledge and your talents out willy-nilly, and you're not being as sacred with them as you should be. And you need to make sure that in order for people to get, like, if you're something very Sagittarius, especially in the second house, it's like buy, sell, trade, right? You know, on your own, like reselling is also very like Sagittarius in the second house. So it's almost like, if you're like reselling stuff, like let's say just Facebook Marketplace, it's just like an easy way to make this like a very practical kind of approach to this. You'd be overly trusting of the people that, you know, like I feel like you would get caught up in the thing of like, oh, I'll give you $500 tomorrow, but I'll give you $200 for the item now. And then of course they're just going to take your item and not give you the rest of the money. Like you might be a little bit overly trusting of that. You kind of need to learn the tricks of the trade, have a little bit more of a barrier to entry because you're like, oh my God, they want to buy my item that I'm reselling. Oh my God, they're making me feel worthy. Oh my God, of course I'll just go with them because of course they're trusting. Like, no, you need to have a little bit more of like, you need to make sure that they kind of get you into that triangle or whatever, you know, metaphorical triangle, to be able to give out your information and to be able to give out, even like to sell that person that item or whatever it is, like be more, I almost want to say like superstitious towards people a little bit and more protective of your energy and your knowledge, and give it to those that are only open and willing. So yes, I think that it's to me like kind of taking in some Capricorn energy to your Sagittarius, being more discerning, a little bit. Like, and I like that he still gives out the information. He just kind of has like prerequisites before he does. All right. I do think I want to do some automatic writing because this pile seemed very chatty to me. So I did pull out my paper and my pen. But this feels different than most manifestations. It feels like a list, like 3 things. Okay, it was making sense, but then it got weird. Okay, so the list is 3 things to not trust. The first one, false money, aka counting chickens before they hatch. That is something that Sagittarius does all the time. I see Sagittarius energy do this all the time. Being like, oh, well, once I sell this for this amount of money, then I'll get this, and then I'll sell that for that amount of money. And then, you know, or, oh, this person's going to give me this career change or like this promotion, and like already acting as though you have that promotion. But when push comes to shove, they don't, or some last second thing changes. So if you're going to, I feel like you're really going out in your career alone, like you're your own boss kind of vibe is what I'm getting. And you need to not count your chickens before they hatch. You need to let and decide and make moves as they're happening because you can think on your feet. You don't need to plan as much as most people. You are capable of juggling a lot of plans, a lot of ideas, a lot of situations. And so just kind of come up with things as they come, pick your next plan, pick your next idea, go your next thought or your way, instead of planning things too ahead because those plans will never go how you expect. Have an idea, of course, but like don't make any fully formed moves until that previous move has already been fully formed and established and set and done. That makes sense. Number 2, another thing to not trust. the false confidence of others. At first it was just the confidence of others, but it's actually the false confidence of others. Like I said, I think you're giving Sagittarius energy too much to everybody else and not enough to yourself, even though you're the one that holds that Jupiterian, Sagittarian energy. Even if you think you don't, you do. But also but not having it in yourself. Like, you need to have false confidence in yourself for it to, like, okay, something I always say about Sagittarius energy and Jupiter energy is, like, it's very much that star or that celebrity that it's like when they when they get into an interview, the first thing they're asked is like, everybody wants to know how you have so much confidence, you know? Everybody wants to know how you have so much confidence. Like, where does that confidence come from? And a Sagittarius energy person will always be like, oh, I don't know. I don't, like, they don't think they have confidence. They just are, right? And that's probably because they didn't have confidence and they just faked it till they made it, and they just are, they just be. True confidence is just being. It's just living, and it's not giving a shit. It's not feeling superior to others. It's not being hyper focused on if you're confident or not. You know, that's not real confidence. That's, if anything, a sign of insecurity. Truly confident people just are. And it's as simple as that. So taking in some of that, just being you, just, you know? And then the third thing was religion. And I was like, I am not trying to push an agenda here. I don't know why that came up, but that was the third thing not to trust, was religion. I don't know, take it or leave it. I'm not trying to tell you to, like, I'm not trying to push that people should or shouldn't be religious on this page. That's not really my point. I hold my own perspective on it, but I'm not really somebody that feels like my answer is the right answer for everybody. Maybe that's kind of more what you need to take in. Maybe it's less about religion and more realizing that your right answer is not the right answer for everybody else, and that's fine, but your right answer is actually correct for you. So maybe also with Sagittarius, like, not many people would be able to have the job that you have, and maybe they look down on it, but it's the job that you're meant to have, and it's not right for anybody else. It's only right for you, and that's fine, and just be in content with that. Maybe it could literally mean religion. I don't know. You take that as you want to take that, because I'm not trying to make any more comments about it. But it came out, so that's why I was like, whatever. Okay. Before we close up here, I didn't get the vibe that you wanted energy work done. I don't know why. I just didn't, so I'm sorry if you did, but I don't think it's right for you right now. If anything, things are feeling a little bit overactive, but I think what it is I don't want to touch it, because you almost, like, need that overactive energy. It feels good for you. Let's just close it with one piece of advice that I haven't really touched on yet. Something that another piece of advice that you need to hear that, you know, hasn't really been brought into this reading. This is the Nine of Pentacles, but it's the Nine of Wands. So it's the Nine of Pentacles and the Nine of Wands combined. I love this deck. I'll let you look at that. So normally the Nine of Wands is a very anxious card. A card that feels as though, you know, you need to protect what you have and somebody's going to take it from you. The Nine of Pentacles is a very satisfied, complimenting card. Like, what I mean by complimented is, like, complimenting is that it's like a very positive, affirming, like, it's complimenting you that you're getting to culmination, getting to where you need to go, all that kind of stuff. And what's really cool about this card, oh, that's interesting, is that he took off his glove. Do you see that? And his hands are bloody because he took off his glove. But it also allowed him to trust and connect more with the animal. So maybe it's about trusting and connecting more to your animal instinct as well. And if that makes a little bit of a mess, so be it. If people are a little bit shocked by that, so be it. Expect it to ruffle some feathers. But he's looking at it with such peace. And he seems like he's at peace with himself and that animal. And the animal's very much at peace too. And so maybe it's saying, like, there maybe needs to be a little bit of suffering, but just find some peace in those times that you do suffer, because there will also be times of plenty. like I always say, what goes up must come down. So the more down that something goes, the higher it will come up. And a lot of times with Sagittarius energy, the lowest dips that you experience are accompanied by the highest windfalls. And so I do think just letting your guard down a little bit is important. Letting yourself open up to life's experiences that seem a little bit more haunting, that seem a little bit more negative, but they can actually give you a lot of good gifts and a lot of understanding about yourself and others and what you need to do in life. And I think readjustment is a good thing for you right now. And I think at the end of the day, because there's this castle really far off in the distance, I think it's saying that, you know, the world will provide and that you are okay and that you'll find your way, you know? But just to take a little bit more risks and put down that worrying attitude, because maybe there is something to worry about, but you'll be okay. It's not something to worry about that will destroy you and will really you'll succumb to. In fact, I think you'll find peace with it instead. But yes, that is your reading, pile 2, my Sagittarius Jupiterian pile. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it resonated. You can let me know down below. I also sell full-length readings, full-length tarot readings on my website, shainaemily.com. I have an astrology TikTok and a personal Instagram. I also do lives every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time if you want to catch me there. I do more live readings as well that are like smaller and cheaper as well. So if you want a discounted reading, you can do that. But yes, thank you so much for opening yourself up to this reading and for even like watching my channel, supporting my channel. It means a lot to me. And I wish you the best. I love this energy. I love this energy, honestly. I think it's the best energy to have towards your career, even though most people would say it's delusional and it's impractical. I say fuck it. I think practical is really boring and everybody else is really boring, and it's time that you went off and lived the life that you want to lead and have your career be a part of it rather than the main focus of it. So yeah. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. All right. Hello. Welcome, pile 3. You picked house 11. Oh, where's it? Yeah, there you go. You picked house 11 on this die. So the first thing I will say is that you seem the most stressed. You seem the most like all over the place, running around, doing a billion things, doing too much, doing the most, doing it all. It gives me, for some reason, I got such anxiety before entering this pile. So if that resonates with you, if you're feeling like strung out, like not literally, maybe, no, but not literally, like more like from work, like being overworked. Just a bunch of nervousness, a bunch of anxiety, not getting a break, not relaxing. This pile is for you. So first we are going to, because there's just so much energy going on. I changed the moon to red. We've got red going on here because you are in a state of like, you feel like you're in a state of scarcity. You feel like you're in a state of like being threatened. I don't know if that's true or not, but you feel that way. Maybe you have to move. I don't know. Who knows? But let's start with lighting an incense. Actually, I wasn't planning to do it. But my God, you need to relax. So let's do something relaxing here, shall we? You got change. All right, so this says, seize change, seize the day. Cypress ginger is a unique blend of the warm, spicy aroma of ginger infused with the fresh, woody scent of cypress. Drift off into meandering tales and feel your stress ooze away with this uplifting fragrance. Wow. So poetic. I couldn't even make this up if I tried. So change. You came, because I feel like in this pile was like, you are the one that needs the most career advice. You are the most confused. You're the most stressed out. You're the most stuck in this recurring cycle with your job. I almost feel like your job is a toxic relationship that you keep coming back to, even though it doesn't treat you well, and but it's like you can't get enough. You're like addicted to it for whatever reason. Maybe it was your first job and you're stuck on it because it's what you decided to do, or who knows. Just seems a little bit of like a toxic situation. You need to like sage, I don't know if you can because I don't know your situation, but if you're able to like sage your cubicle or whatever you have, I don't know why, but this pile seems like the most traditional job to me. But if you're able to like sage your workspace, you should, even in private and secret. I don't know if you want people to know that you're doing that or whatever it is. You need to do, maybe if you don't want it to smell, you need to do some kind of clearing activity. The fool goes out and sings his song, dances his dance, and acts his act, while the rest sit back and become onlookers, laughing at the life he dared to lead. I think that you are the onlooker right now, actually. I think that pile 2 especially, and maybe even a little bit of pile 1, was more of the fool, that people look at and are shocked at and don't understand for different reasons. But I think you're actually the person that's more likely to judge them for their choices. I feel like you're the person that's going to go down the much more comfortable, salary-driven, responsible-driven job. But I think it's a little bit, I think what it is that you're prioritizing it more than anything else in your life. And for what? For why? What is it really giving back to you? I don't think the advice that you need is to leave the job. I feel like you like the job. I think the advice feels more like you need to strike a balance. You got the 11th house, and in the sky, there's Lilith in the 11th house. Let me see what sign it's in. Yeah, and there's also Juno, which makes me feel like you're married to your job and you're married to those commitments. Lilith is in Libra. Again, it feels like this is such a your relationship people's relationship plays out how your job does, if that makes sense. Like, I do feel like you're in a toxic relationship with your career and your job right now. And I do feel like you're obsessed with networking and getting further and growing and growing and growing. Okay, that makes sense. You got the monk/nun reversed. So let me read it and I'll show it to you. Selfless devotion. The light attribute is selfless devotion and single-minded dedication to spirit. Shadow attribute, which is what you're more in right now. Negative judgment of the physical world. Excess piety. Now, how I'm actually reading this card, let me show you it upright, so you don't have to look at it reversed. How I'm reading this card is actually that you're really out of touch with your spiritual self, and that you're really out of touch with finding peace and stillness. Like, that's something that you really need to bring into your life more, but you're struggling to do so, or you just don't want to do so. I think you have all the ability to. You're just I think that there's actually, you're having extreme devotion and single-minded dedication, not to spirit, but rather what's the word, physical means, dedication to your job, career, the material world. That's what I'm trying to say. Dedication to the material world. And you're really disconnected to your higher self. Now, I do feel like you do actually like your job. I do actually feel like you like what you're doing in your career. You're just feeling like you're in a rut. And I do feel like you have reached a lot of success, but I don't feel like you ever celebrate your successes as you go through them. I feel like you just charge right through it to get to the next success. And I also actually think that you're using people a little bit. I think that you're using your relationships. You're not forming intimate bonds with people, but rather superficial bonds with people, and then using them and discarding them when you don't need them anymore. And I think you look at them as fools, and you look at them as you kind of laugh at their naivete. But in reality, you rejecting them pushes them to get to where they want to be in life and pushes them to be happy. And you're stuck kind of living in this really weird bubble of thinking that your job is the only thing that's out there and that's all that matters to you. Like, I think you're having trouble seeing the bigger picture of life and your life, and that there's more than just that company out there for you, if that makes sense. I'm going to set some crystals because I feel like more than anything you need some energy work done. I'm going to put, oh, it's actually labeled. Fuchsite kyanite. I got this from my mom, actually. I think she labeled it. It's really pretty. It feels very creative. But it feels like it would help unblock your creativity. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big crystal person, but I do think that they can be helpful. And I do think you do have a connection to spirit. And I mean, I'm calling it spirit because the card did. I never call it spirit, if I'm being honest. I do think you have a connection to the metaphysical spirituality, I guess I would say more. But I actually, maybe you see it as two separate things. Like you have your spiritual self and you have your work and career self. And you really separate those two things. And you don't combine them, because if you were to combine them, I actually wonder if you would feel good about what you're doing. Not that your job's like a terrible job, because again, I think you like your job and I think that you enjoy it, but it's more like there's some actions that you're taking within that job that aren't aligned with you, if that makes sense. Especially with how you communicate with people and how you are with people. I think that you really need to connect with nature again. I'm pretty sure that I got this rock from who I'm just gonna call my niece and my nephews, because they're not related to me, but they live a really hard life, if you ask me. And one of their main hobbies is that they will collect rocks and find pretty rocks everywhere. So any pretty rock that I have is pretty much from them. So I think that you need a little bit more of that to connect with nature and disconnect from superficiality. Your root chakra feels really strong, actually. It feels really stable. So it's almost like you could take a break if you wanted, but you never, ever would. I won't even try to convince you to do that, because it feels like it's not going to happen. But there is some need to take a day off, or, like I said, connect with something a little bit more, like touch grass, as the kids say. I'm not a kid. As the kids say. And one more. We'll go, this was also from my mom. I'm not sure what this is. Probably just like a little fake thing, but it's from my mom, so it means something. This heart. We'll put this heart at your heart. Because I do think you need to open your heart up a little bit more. There's something I'm missing too. There's some big glaring problem or thing that's happening in your life that I haven't touched on. Maybe you have a broken heart. Maybe you give me divorced vibes, or maybe not literally divorced, but going through a divorce, going through a bad breakup, going through an ending in a relationship. And I feel like you just plunged yourself into your job after it. I'm almost getting shakiness from the heart. So it's like, I think you're feeling a lot of stress because you're not connected to your heart. You're not connected to your center. You're not connected to even your G center. I've been getting more into human design. Your sense of self. You're overly connected to your reputation. But not to what others think of you. You actually could use to be more connected to what others think of you. You're extremely disconnected with that, and you're actually ruining your relationships because of that. And that breakup should have been a reality check as far as why you go for the people that you go for. Why do you go for people that are so cold? Why do you go for people that are so distant? And then why do you act out the way they treated you out in other relationships? It's a weird message to come up. We have the Knight of Cups, but he appears more, I don't know why, it's giving Knight of Swords vibes. I think this is the pose that the Knight of Swords is in. It might not be, and if I'm wrong, I'm just going to go with it. Or Knight of Wands. Maybe it's the Knight of Wands horse pose with the Knight of Cups, because I know the Knight of Cups is usually steady. So, it makes me feel like you're rushing through relationships and you're not enjoying them. And I think the big career change or shift that you need is actually to have more open, inspiring, heartfelt connections with people and not just make these shallow work relations. And you need to kind of take a second and breathe and not just have relationships that can better you or benefit you, but have relationships that are more Sex in the City vibes, which I think of like as friendships, as genuine friendships. Like, these girls aren't getting anything from their relationship with each other than camaraderie, you know? They're not gaining anything from it other than just enjoying being friends. And I think that's what you need to bring into your life a little bit more and not rush through these relationships, because I think you also treat relationships like you treat your job, which is just to get to the end goal of your career. And, you know, like get to the end goal of like, oh, now I'm the boss of this job or whatever it is. Like, oh, now we're married. Now we're at the end of our commitment because we've proved it. We've gotten to the end. Like, you kind of rush through things and don't kind of take in this energy to kind of sit and be content and enjoy in it. And the thing that you got was change. So I think you need to change your outlook. I think it's more about changing your outlook, changing your viewpoint, changing the way you spend your free time as well. I think that you actually do spend too much time alone. I think you do need time alone, but I think it's about how you're spending your time alone that you have is not as, I almost want to say beneficial. Like, you're still being busy. So you think it's beneficial because you're busy, but it's actually not, because you're not like soothing your soul. You need like chicken soup for the soul vibes. I don't know why that came up, but it did. Okay, you got the King of Cups, but it's the devil is kind of sitting on the throne. So this makes me think, this is almost like somebody that's, this gives me alcoholic vibes, actually, more than anything. This makes, oh, and he's even holding the cup and it's got wine in it. I didn't even notice that. Look. And then the fact that it's fire, there's fire in the other hand, makes me think that you just let your emotions explode in very unpleasant ways, and you feel your emotions very strongly and very heavily. But I think you do have something where maybe you drink a lot to kind of ignore your emotions or to get past your emotions, or you use some kind of a substance to absolve yourself of feeling them. Or, you know what, I actually think it's like almost like you use it to feel it more. You have to use the substance to be able to really let yourself sit in an emotion and feel it, and then you cling on to the negative parts of that emotion because you're not using, like, you're not expressing it in a healthy way, or getting to that emotion in a healthy way, I should say. And then that fire makes me feel like you're very emotionally reactive and very emotionally explosive. And it also makes me feel like you're hanging on to past wounds, potentially past relationships, in a very negative way. Maybe even this has to do with family trauma, like you're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to prove what you can do and what you can be through your job, and you're hanging on to these feelings of neglect. That's also very water energy, because we have 2 cups cards here. We have the Nine of Cups and the King of Cups. So it makes me feel like you're like maybe you dealt with neglect when you were younger, and that's why you're such a hard worker now. And so career driven and career focused, and why you've shied away from relationships so much. And I feel like you're really emotional, but it's not in this like healthy water sign way where it's flowing and it's very creative. It's more in this like reactive state. Like, you're very emotionally reactive, and you blow things out of proportion, and you hang on to being that way because it helps you feel something, and because you're strong and you don't take no bullshit. So, and which is true and which is good, but you're also actually destroying a lot of your connections because of it. Connections with people that could actually be very valuable for no other reason other than camaraderie. Let's go to the crown chakra. We have death, but it looks like it's got the archangel in judgment. I'm trying to see if there's any other images here. That looks like the magician, because there's some sort of magician going on. Oh no, the king. It's like the king. Sorry, there's a lot going on. There's the king, and then he's in this green grass, but then surrounding them is very something a little bit more desolate. I'll let you look at that too. There's a lot of stuff going on. So it's almost like, you know, this is a time of reckoning. It's almost like you kind of have to reap what you've sown a little bit, and you need to change. Change is coming. A different outlook on life is coming. Change of perspective. I actually don't know why I'm so stuck on the fact that it's not a change of career, but rather a change and a shift within how you approach your career is really how I'm feeling it. Because I feel like you're just so good at what you do, and that's not the problem. It's just how you treat people with how within that job and within the context of your career that needs to change. Or something subtle within your job needs to shift, but it's so scary to you because you feel as though you'll have to pay for your sins a little bit, is like the vibe that I'm getting. I don't know what that means to you. Take that as it means to you. You'll almost need to like plead for forgiveness from people. You know what it is that I feel like you'll have to say you're sorry. I feel like, or say that you're wrong, or like apologize or something, and you give me the vibe that that's just not something you want to do. I think that I think that you sometimes in your heart of hearts know when you're wrong and know when you should say sorry. But this pile's giving me major childhood trauma, childhood neglect, lack growing up in childhood vibes. And that is making you never want to admit you're wrong or say you're sorry, because you feel as though you deserve to feel the way you do and act the way you do because of X, Y, and Z. And it's giving me like, I feel like you have a lot of fixed signs in your chart. Well, also Lilith, like Lilith doesn't want to be, because the 11th house right now has Lilith in it, and you got the 11th house. Lilith never wants to be subordinate or under somebody. Lilith never wants to, a lot of times, admit she's wrong as well. Lilith and Libra does have a lot to do with those relationships. So yeah, it all is connecting. And Virgo's ruling that house, so working, overworking anybody that's below you, even potentially, being that devil to the other people and holding your throne and saying you're kind and you rule with a kind heart. And I think you do have a kind heart. You're just ruling like you're a little bit intoxicated, you're a little bit absent-minded, a little bit distracted, maybe what it is, from the main goal at hand. And there needs to be this real change, this real shift, this real reassessment going on in your life. And let go of the things that aren't serving you, and freeze and stop and find peace and contentment and take some breaks. There's this Reiki girl, I've mentioned her before, called Sarah Louise Tinsley, and I think she would be really good for you to watch because she posts it feels like almost every day, or at least every few days. And just like, she's really, at least her videos to me, they focus on just like taking time out of your day to give to yourself and find peace with yourself and find peace in stillness. At least that's the vibe I get whenever I watch her videos, is like I feel like she's always reminding me of that subconsciously. And she always does this thing where she says, nobody wants anything from you right now. Nobody needs anything from you right now. Like, that's how she starts all of her videos. And I think you need a little bit of that affirmation coming in, Nobody wants anything from you right now. Nobody needs anything from you right now. There are no demands, kind of breathe kind of situation, find some peace. You already feel like you are finding a little bit more peace throughout this reading. So I think that your career move or career shift that you need to take is actually more of a shift with your, your attitude. Something like that. Okay, so this is obviously like, okay, I will say, let me just preface this. I wrote the beginnings, the first ones of these were like things that I wrote for myself, as like they're supposed to be fortunes for myself, or like little notes for myself. So this is so embarrassing that I wrote this. But I do understand how it applies to you in the greater context. I'm not going to lie and change it. I'm going to read it as it comes up. But I wrote, it's so embarrassing. But it says, no one will ever ask you about your dead mom, right? So I think basically the context of this is like, nobody's ever going to ask about your trauma and try to understand why you do the things that you do. And, nobody will get to the deeper reasoning of it, because it's giving very Scorpio Taurus vibes as well. Because people just won't, right? unless you tell them, and you're not going to tell them. So, you know, if people understood your backstory, they would understand why you do what you do and why you make the moves that you make. But no one's ever going to sit down and, you know, be your therapist and at your workplace and ask about your dead mom and why you're treating me like this and why you're making these moves and why you're making these decisions. Like, that's just not going to happen. And so because of that, it's kind of like you need to make peace with it yourself. I'm not saying that you literally have a dead mom. I'm saying that you obviously have childhood trauma. That trauma could really stem from the mother. Maybe it could be a figurative dead mom, you know? Whatever it is, nobody's going to ask you about your childhood trauma, and you're not going to be able to explain things in a thorough enough way to where everybody will understand why you're doing what you're doing. So it's kind of giving me the vibes of like needing to let it go, right? This death, needing to move on and disconnect from it and move on to something higher and greater and more aligned with you. The King of Cups with the Devil showing up, like you're obviously connected to something that's not giving you any help, that's not helping you in any, serving you in any way. The Knight of Cups with the Knight of Swords, you're just trying to move past it and run past it. And at the same time as well, while hanging on to it so much, you hang on to it in your soul and you run past it in real life. So you need to kind of find a happy medium where you make peace with it. A lot of this reading has felt like you need to make peace with something. Okay, I'm getting the call to kind of close this up and like put everything away and change this to blue because you need to be more connected with your creativity and your truth and speaking your truth, more connected to your throat chakra. Let's check your throat chakra, see what's going on. This is all sorts of tangled. I think you make your life more complicated than it needs to be. I think you give yourself more tasks than you need to. You know what? I have a little anecdote to tell you. Let me check this first. Yeah, it seems like your throat chakra is very closed. I think you're talking a lot, but you're rather commanding. You're like saying commands and demands rather than speaking and actually communicating back and forth. Your root chakra, I can just tell, is open. Your crown is actually open, although you don't listen, you don't let it connect to your third eye, and so you don't actually kind of take that advice a lot. Although you know when things are happening, it's giving me such fixed sign vibes. Like it feels like if some, you know, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus energy strong, or like if you have any squares in between those things, those planets are the ones that are like acting up. You know, if you have like Scorpio, Mars, square, Leo, Venus, like that's the energy that's acting up. I'm just, you know, saying shit. But you know what I'm trying to say. Like find that in your chart if there are any fixed sign squares or oppositions or that kind of stuff, or just the planets that are there, and that's really playing itself up right now. But it's like you're not connecting to it, you're not taking in that advice. It's like you actually are getting the signals that you should be getting, but you're not implementing them and taking them and listening to them. So be careful you don't also do that with this reading as well. So the anecdote that I was going to tell you, it was relatable a second ago, but now I can't remember why. I think because you don't take a lot of breaks, and because you don't allow yourself, I think you need to actually, like faction in time, I don't know what the right word is, for doing nothing or being a little bit irresponsible or like chilling out. Like I've tried to make it really imperative that I do that every weekend. And because I'm a really strong busybody, like I have Mars in the 4th house and I'm always moving around in the house. I'm very busy at home. I'm always doing a billion things and juggling a billion things. And like I have like 20 to-do lists, which gives me like your vibe in the workplace. And so like this past weekend, I've been getting more into The Sims. I've been like falling back into loving The Sims like I did when I was really little, and I used to play like The Sims 1 and 2 a lot. But I've been playing The Sims and I can get stuck on that game for hours. And so this weekend I was like, fuck it. I'm gonna fucking just play until I'm tired. And so I stayed up until 4 a.m. playing The Sims, which is not something I normally do. And I woke up at like noon the next day, which is not abnormal for me as a kid. And it's not abnormal for me in the past, but is abnormal for me in my life now. And my boyfriend was very like, I just don't think he'd ever seen me act like that, you know? And he made quite a few comments about it. And I think he was just being funny about it. He actually, I could tell he didn't give a shit. But he was, I think, like, I don't know what the right word is, but like, the only thing that comes to mind is like weirded out that I acted that way, if that makes sense. And so maybe you don't feel like you can act that way out of judgment. Like you're the person that's always on it, so you can't let yourself be a little bit irresponsible at all. But he does, little does he know, like I kind of planned that in and I did everything I needed to do the next day and stuff. But I just don't think you feel like you're allowed to be irresponsible because you're always pointing the finger at everybody else as being irresponsible and you being the responsible one. So you're like worried of what people might say the second you become a little bit lax or you change your tone. But you just have to, it's just, if it's planned, it's still planned and you're still being responsible if it's planned. Because if I don't give myself those breaks, then I'm not going to come on Monday, today when I film and do my live, I'm not going to come refreshed. I'm going to come exhausted and I'm going to come embittered, and I'm going to take it out on my video and I'm not going to get good readings. I'm not going to give a good product and I'm going to feel bad, even shittier about myself because I care so much about my work ethic and the work I produce, which I can tell you do so much, like you really do. You give me very smart, very practical, very capable vibes. But I think you need to schedule in a little bit of fun, but not fun to where you're just like drowning your sorrows, like actually just like escaping and enjoying yourself in whatever way that looks like to you and not worrying so much about how other people are making those judgments towards you. I'll get one last little message to end it. And it says, it's okay to be. That's all it says. It's okay to be. The other side says, this love is eternal even after the light has gone out. Interesting. So take that as you will. But yeah, it's okay to just be. It's okay to be. So thank you so much, Pal 3, for watching this reading and opening yourself up to the reading and supporting me and my channel and everything. I'll sell full-length readings, full-length tarot readings as well on my website, shainaemily.com. I have an astrology TikTok and a personal Instagram, but thank you just so much for being here and watching this reading. You can let me know how it resonates or if it resonates down below. I think you need less of a career shift and more of a mindset shift and more of an inner shift is really kind of what came out for me while doing this reading. But yeah, thank you so much again for being here and have a great rest of your day or your evening. Hope you take a little bit more time after this. You should check out Sarah Louise Tinsley if you're interested. But yes, all right, bye.